in large part because we're going to be launching John Hale's edition of On Christian Doctrine. And we'll start with that in just a moment. Before that, just a few announcements from the department itself. The first is, you may have heard that Eamon Clary, who was the donor for the Eamon Clary Chair in Irish Studies, died last week, and Peter wanted me to let you know that he's writing his obituary in the Irish Times, so you can you'll be able to see that, I think, online. So that was quite a sudden and surprising event. I also want to introduce a couple of visitors that we have. There are many that John may introduce in a minute, but just Rochelle Bright here is writing a libretta in the Albert Lord Cottage, which has just been newly refurbished, so double glazing so that it's a little quieter, which is very nice. So it's really great to have you, Rochelle, so thank you for coming. And Richard Blakey, who is the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research, and I've been hoping to get him around to a morning tea. It turned out his calendar was clear today, so he's able to come to this particularly special one. Yeah. And so please say hello to Richard when we're finished. I also wanted to launch an article as well. Dave Chicarico's Focalization in Digital Fiction, coming out in Narratives. That's quite an excellent publication, and he wanted to point out that how much help Lisa Marr had been in putting that together. And speaking of Lisa Marr, she'll be giving a seminar this afternoon at 4 o'clock, so I'm looking forward to hearing that. Are there any other non-Milton related announcements?
Nothing on Bellsville.
Sorry?
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, we're gathered here then because a very exciting event, a very long-awaited event, the edition of Milton's On Christian Doctrine that John Hale and Don Cullington have produced. This is a really momentous occasion in Milton studies. Everyone has known, of course, for years that Milton published long theological treatise, or wrote a long theological treatise. It's never been given properly scholarly treatment. It hasn't had a proper translation, and it's just, you've been able to find bits and pieces of it in different kinds of editions of Milton's prose work, but often cherry-picked, so people don't have a very good sense of what's in the entire treatise. And of course, Milton's theology is extremely interesting and important for everyone who's thinking about how we read Paradise Lost. So I think actually you could make the argument this is the most important element in the collected works of Milton, because it's the one we really haven't had before. Other things have been given scholarly treatment and have been relatively available, but this, I think, is going to really, I think, be the most important, the most momentous publication, and it brings great honor on the department to have had John Hale associated with us for so long. And so with that, should I turn it to you, John, to get the...
Yes, thank you, Lynn, for the generous words. Yeah. When you talk about proper scholarly treatment, it means one thing in particular for this work, that by sheer accident, the manuscript of this work remains, and therefore you can watch this and that thing in painstakingly transcribing the manuscript, and you can actually see Milton changing his mind. Papa. This is not a daily event, and there's much creaking of gears, but in the course of looking at the transcribing, that's exactly what you see in certain places, and of course that's one of the rewards for all the grind of doing it when it's utterly interesting in itself. The point of the elaborate eats, which I hope you will finish by the end of the morning, and the whole special invitations to people who have helped us, there really are too many of these to name them all by name, but with any luck at all, we've named them in the preface to the book. I hope you will take a glance at the book, even if you don't get beyond Roman page 3 credits, and the dedication to our wives, speaking of whom, scriptural virtues come to mind, such as long-suffering and loving kindness, but especially long-suffering. There's so many debts we've incurred that I think it would be tedious, unfortunately, to name them all by name, but please look at the book. I want to thank Donald in particular, because Donald kept me focused on the principles that are at stake in this kind of edition, such humdrum and servant-like things as accuracy, clarity and fullness, for all of which he's a tiger, and you need them to make a big volume self-consistent and as good as it can be. And I want to thank Donald publicly, and this is a public occasion, and that's why I want to thank particularly all the people, the corporate supporters of this enterprise. The Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Research and Enterprise comes to mind in this connection because he represents the university here. The university has supported us in many ways, particularly with funding, but the department, which has been my working life, most of it, it's a good thing to be able to thank the English department publicly, although we have gone in other directions departmentally as well, haven't we, Donald? Particularly theology and classics have helped us enormously. And in this corporate category, coming towards the end of the oration, by the way, I want to thank the librarians and their libraries. That's the University Library and it's the Special Collections, especially, which has the first edition of De Doctrina over there, one of its treasures. The Dunedin Public Library, which has the very important Latin Bible translation. There was a Protestant Latin Bible, the Amphitr Vulgate, and that's what the Latin citations are taken from. And that's no small thing, because that's half the whole work is biblical citation. It is the ultra-biblical work without somehow being fundamentalist. A very strange work, heterodox in all kinds of ways. We thank the Public Library for that, and the Hewitson Library provided us with all kinds of commentaries and those kind of scriptural and theological things, all of which we needed. Rather nice, in fact, that we were touring around the town's libraries in the great cause. We want to show this appreciation, and we have copies of the book to give to those libraries, those wise guardians of the treasure houses of Dunedin, and Donald will now do that. Thank you for listening.
Anthony Tedeschi of the Dunedin Public Library, on whose third floor I spent many happy hours. Thank you very much.